week or so ago. I got on the Peacock, couldn't sleep, and pulled up some old. It might have been Saturday Night Main Event, or it might have been. It may have just been like a Macho Man special or something, where it's just a bunch of his matches. And I was watching it, and I don't know if it's me remembering from being a kid or whatever, but the pace of the matches that were on this show I was watching, the movements, it just looked so much realer than what I see in today's wrestling. And I was just wanted to bring that up to you, get your thoughts on it.
Hmm. I, so it's kind of cool because everything evolves. And here on the show, we've talked about before the evolution of fight choreography in movies. When I grew up, I remember watching westerns, and they'd have the barroom brawls, and there'd be the block punch, and everything was kind of slow, and then as things evolved, then in the '80s, all of a sudden you got martial arts and you got jumping spin kicks, and things kind of changed. And then the '90s, here comes Van Damme,
Yeah.
and then the 2000s hit, and now everyone's doing kung fu, and Jason Statham is
Yeah.
the transporter, and he's and now when you watch the Avengers, Captain America and Iron Man are fighting Wing Chun, everything evolves. Nowadays, most of the wrestling you see on television, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of it is choreographed. And that's why it looks choreographed, because it's put together that way. Whereas back in the day, a lot of it was kind of called on the fly. So it wasn't so smooth and it was a little bit more rough. But I remember, and here's a little homework for those of you who are real wrestling nerds. Um, Go watch Jack Brisco against Dory Funk Jr. for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. You watch that match, and it's scientific wrestling. That looks real. There's no foot stomping with punches. The way they're grappling and throwing each other, that looks real. And I remember watching that years ago and saying to myself, oh, now I remember why I used to think it was real. Some of it, like you said, the pacing, how they were moving, the moves that they were doing were believable. Um, Nowadays, you get somebody slung into the rope and they come bounce off the rope into a waiting drop kick. It's like, but that goes back even then. But here's something that's crazy, right? So, um, everything's generational. When I'm trying to think who it was, it said, was it Gotch or was it Thez? I think it was Thez. I think it was Lou Thez was talking about a multi-time NWA champion who he felt was a spot monkey. His stuff looked too choreographed. It looked too, This is Thez, Lou Thez, the legendary Lou Thez, who was a legitimate guy. He was a guy they put you in there with if you didn't want to lose the belt, kind of thing. Um, and he was in there with five-time NWA champion, Harley Race. Now you go back and you look at Harley Race and you watch how Harley Race is working, and you spot monkey. But then you look at Lou Thez. Look how Lou Thez worked. Look what Lou Thez was doing, multi-time champion. And then just, not too much longer afterwards, here's Harley Race. People praise Harley Race. Harley Race was a tough guy. He was known. Harley Race was the guy that the NWA sent with Ric Flair to Japan when he was going to defend the NWA belt in Japan. Sent Harley with him, So Harley got respect, and Harley kept the pistol too.
Oh,
Yeah. If he couldn't handle you, he could handle
yeah.
you.
Get the strap, Harley.
Right. If Harley had to get the strap, it was out of control. So yeah, just do that. Go watch Jack Brisco and Dory Funk Jr. NWA Championship match. Watch the timing and the pace of that match. That match looks real. I don't think there's a leapfrog in it. I don't think. It's two guys who are amateur wrestlers, versed in grappling, putting on a realistic, believable performance for the NWA World Championship. But those were wrestling shows. Now we make television shows. So the evolution has gone, from what it used to be to what it is. And now, like I said, when you go to the movies, you don't see any more punch block fight scenes. Everything is high speed cables and wires and martial arts and jumping, spinning. Wrestling television isn't that different. Like we love Rey Mysterio. He's the greatest luchador of all time. But Rey Mysterio ain't doing all that acting. The Rey Phoenix and Pac and Ospreay, they ain't doing all that shit in a real fight, But it's entertaining as hell to watch.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that I think the evolution of wrestling to what it is, from what it was to what it is. It used to be a wrestling show. Now it's a television show.